Focus. I'm Vivian Kopsinger-Birchall, your host, and this is a special episode bringing to you updates from the Acton Water District. And with me is the District Manager, Matt Mastola. Welcome.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
Thanks for having us again.
It's great to always have you here to have our updates. There's a lot of concerns usually about water, but what updates are we going to have today?
Yeah, so we've had a really busy year here at the Acton Water District. We've had multiple construction projects, including a new water main that was included as part of the Kelly's Corner project. We've been working on multiple PFAS filtration projects. We have a couple new staff members that you'll get to meet, and we're going to talk a little bit about our service line inventory program.
Absolutely. So who are we going to be talking to today?
Sure. So you're going to hear from me a little bit later on some of our construction projects. You're going to hear from the Board of Water Commissioners, Stephen Stuntz, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the long-term plans of the district. And you're also going to hear from our Deputy District Manager, Corey Godfrey, and our Environmental Analyst, Sean Case, about our service line inventory project.
Exciting. Can't wait to give you all the updates. Stay tuned. And right with us right now is the chairperson for the Acton Water District Commission, Mr. Stephen Stuntz. Welcome to Acton in Focus.
Well, thank you for having us. I love the opportunity to talk to our voters. We have a very select group of voters who have supported us incredibly well in all of what we do in the long term. What we're standing on is some bedrock wells, which are new to the system, and we just have been working on this for 8 to 10 years now. Nothing is easy in this business, nor should it be. We have to be sure it's safe and clean and ready to be used. So I just want to thank everybody for voting for us and voting for adding land and paying for the proper equipment. So thank you very much.
Maybe just a quick one. You mentioned that some of the things are not easy. Are there some particular issues, things that were not easy that voters should be aware of?
No, I think it's just the time, because the approvals necessary to make sure it's done right. You have to cross all your T's and dot your I's properly, because it's too important. We can't be sloppy in this business. Even though we have a lot of water, we cannot be sloppy.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here with Acton in Focus, updating our Acton residents about everything good at Acton Water District.
Well, thank you for taking the time to show us off. We appreciate that. Thank you.
So we just heard from the chair of the commission, and one of the things he mentioned was the bedrock. Tell us, what is this thing?
So here we are standing next to what we call a bedrock wellhead, and here at the Acton Water District, when we approach a challenge, we don't just look for a short-term quick solution. We're looking for long-range durable solutions, and this bedrock well is a great example. So we've been working on this project since 2018, and originally this was supposed to be a 20-year to 30-year project for the district to provide water in the future. When we ended up with PFAS in our groundwater sources, we pivoted and turned this into a short-term solution, and really this is going to help us meet the long-term needs for the community. And we really want to thank the Conant family, who originally owned the land that we're standing on, and they've worked with us to provide both public access and a site for this well, again, for the next 50 to 100 years, which is generally the kind of planning horizon that we work on.
Speaking of PFAS, is this the only solution that you have currently for PFAS, or are we going to hear more about that?
Yeah, so you're going to hear more about some of our longer-term PFAS solutions. Right away, we've reactivated 2 wells in our system to give us immediate relief to PFAS, but we're also adding these bedrock wells. We're also adding 3 treatment plants. So we have a multi-pronged approach to get us to reducing the amount of PFAS in our drinking water.
Perhaps a 101 question, what is a bedrock well?
Sure. So here in Acton, we currently have 26 wells in our system. 24 of those wells are really shallow, so anywhere from 25 to about 65 feet deep. Bedrock wells go deep into the ground. So this well here is about 600 feet below the surface, and it goes into the rock underneath us. So generally, when you dig up a hole in your backyard, there's going to be some sand, gravel, some stones. There might be 20, 30, 50 feet of that kind of material. And that's what we call the shallow kind of overburden material. But the bedrock is that next layer, and that's where these wells have been drilled.
Thank you for that lesson. I'm
You're
sure others
welcome.
will appreciate it. And I know that I have some questions regarding PFAS, and I don't know whether to ask them now or later. But regarding previous conversations, we talked about the sources of PFAS. And the town said it was still trying to figure out what the sources are. Has that changed? Do you actually know some of the sources?
Yeah, so PFAS is not just an Acton specific issue. It's a regional, really, it's a global issue. There are many, many potential sources of PFAS. Unfortunately, we don't have a source that we can point a finger at yet here in Acton. There continues to be work that can be done to help identify that, but that's really going to be a team effort, utilizing local, state, and hopefully federal resources to help identify some of these ongoing sources.
And I was reading your report that so far the town of Acton is compliant in terms of state levels.
Yeah, so right now, since November of 2023, we have been in compliance with the state standards. There are some new federal standards that are pending, and these construction projects that we're working on are really to help ensure that we can meet those standards going forward.
Well, thank you, and come with us and let's get more updates from the Acton Water District. And we're back with more updates from the Acton Water District. So back to you, Matt. What room are we in? What are we looking at? And how does it tie into the updates that you have for us?
Sure. So right now we're at our Center Acton water treatment plant, and we are in the new PFAS filtration building. So you may recall back in June of 2024, we started up a new treatment facility at our North Acton plant. That's been producing about 300,000 gallons of PFAS-free water since that time. And we're currently working on this project in Center Acton, which is going to use granular activated carbon, which is going to absorb the PFAS to it and provide us clean water. We're going to use the same technology at our South Acton plant. Right now, we're hoping to turn this plant on sometime in late October, early November, and follow up with the South Acton plant hopefully before the end of the year, sometime in December.
And perhaps if I just follow up with that, what population or what parts of Acton will this plant be serving?
Yeah, so here in Acton, our water supply system is mixed. So in general, the South Acton plant provides about 75% of the water needs for the entire community. So even though it's located in the southern part of town, that water can make its way all the way up past where Town Hall and the library are. This particular plant, although we call it the Center Acton plant, really serves East Acton and Great Road, headed out towards Nagog Pond and the Nagog Park area. And then our North Acton plant really serves north of Great Road, so going up Main Street and serving the neighborhoods in that area.
And is it just fair to assume that residents of Acton shouldn't worry about PFAS in Acton for now?
Yeah, so right now, as I mentioned, we haven't had a violation since 2023. So the water has been safe during that time. And as we bring these new treatment plants online, it will become safer every time we bring another plant on.
And given how expensive installations like this are, and I don't even remember how much it cost for this,
Sure.
and you'll probably tell us, but my big question is, does it also treat other toxic material besides PFAS?
Sure, so to answer your first question, we're spending about $20 million that our voters have authorized for us to spend on this phase of PFAS work. The good news is we're getting about $3 million of that waived from the state of Massachusetts, which is great. It's helping out our ratepayers and customers. In terms of other benefits from adding this, yes, we will see some additional contaminants that may or may not be regulated currently being removed. We'll also see organic constituents removed from the water. And that's important because that can help improve the taste and odor of the water once it goes out into our piping network.
Just a quick follow-up to that. You said there might be, components, or what are they called, toxic material that is not regulated. What is some of that? if you don't mind me asking? And why isn't it being
right
regulated?
now, we have over 300 compounds that are regulated.
Okay.
So those are things that either the state or federal government requires us to test for, and if we have certain levels of it, we're required to remove it or somehow remediate that. There are other things in the water. There are well more than 300 compounds that are man-made, that are naturally occurring, and we're not necessarily looking for all of those. Some things that could be in the water would be prescription medicines. That is a big concern. That may be that next wave after PFAS in terms of drinking water regulation. The good news is a lot of the treatment technologies that we're currently implementing here in Acton would probably also be effective at reducing some of these other unregulated contaminants.
I'm so happy that you mentioned prescription medicine, because that's just one of the things that we throw down the water wells and the water sources. So what is your message to our residents in terms of protecting our water sources?
Yeah, so certainly everyone in Acton, whether you live here or work here, you have a role in protecting our groundwater. So everything that we flush down our toilet or put on our yard or throw out into the woods is ultimately going to reach the groundwater here in Acton again. So since we get all of our water in Acton right now, everything that we do in Acton directly impacts the viability of our water supply.
Well, we can talk about that more later, but back to the updates. Are there any other updates you haven't talked about regarding this treatment plant or anything else?
Yeah, so again, we're taking on 2 projects simultaneously. So we've had an extremely busy year managing 2 construction crews, building these PFAS buildings. Luckily, they're very similar projects. One just happens to be 3 times as large as the other. So we're trying to schedule between the 2 projects. We're trying to get vendors to provide equipment. We did have some delays because, again, PFAS is a nationwide problem, so Acton is competing with the rest of the country for the same types of treatment equipment, and obviously that can lead to delays. So one of our projects was supposed to be completed in June of this past year, and that unfortunately is the one that's going to start up in December.
How would you rate Acton compared to other communities in the United States in terms of PFAS treatment?
So
you don't have to answer that, but I'm just curious.
No, so we're ahead of the curve. So
Okay.
Acton began testing before we were required to test for PFAS. Other parts of the country have just started testing. So in terms of protecting our customers and the folks here in Acton, we're ahead of the curve. Our board, our engineers, our regulators have all worked with us to navigate getting on board with PFAS treatment on the early side compared to the rest of the country.
This is when I say to all residents, kudos to the team here. So when you find any Acton Water District officials or staff, please say thank you.
We always appreciate a thank you.
All right, I think we're going to get another update from
Corey Godfrey, our Deputy District Manager. He's going to talk to us a little bit about our service line inventory program.
All right, stay with us. And this is one of our last updates today, and we're with the Deputy District Manager, who we're going to ask to introduce themselves since they haven't really been introduced to our community. So if you would kindly tell us your name and what your role is before we get into the updates, and then we'll also introduce your colleague right next to you.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Corey Godfrey. I'm the Deputy District Manager here at the Acton Water District, and I started back in April. And prior to that, I worked for the neighboring town of Littleton for their water department for the previous 10 years, where I was the water and sewer superintendent.
And yourself?
Hi, I'm Sean Case. I'm the environmental analyst. I just started in June, and before that, I worked as an environmental consultant for about 4.5 years.
Well, excellent, gentlemen. So what do you want the residents to know?
Sure, yeah. So some of our customers might remember about this time last year or a little bit later in the fall, we had sent out a letter explaining a new regulatory program from the US EPA and Mass DEP that requires all public water systems to identify any and all lead service lines that might be in their water system. And so we've been working very hard on that over the past couple of years. I'll explain, first of all, for those who might not be aware what a service line is. It's essentially the small diameter pipe that carries the water from the larger diameter pipe in the road through your front yard typically into your home. And so those are typically 1 inch diameter or less, connected to a water main in the street, which are the larger diameter water mains. And those service lines can be made of various materials, largely depending on when they were installed. And the goal nationwide now is to find and remove all lead service lines. So we've been working hard, like I said, the past couple of years here in Acton to determine if we have any lead service lines, and I'm happy to report that so far we've not found a single one. The vast majority of the service lines here in Acton are made of either copper or plastic, with a very small number of other materials like a couple of different types of iron that we have found. And so some customers may have noticed, especially this past summer, us being out in the street doing excavation work to dig down and find the service line so we can determine the material, especially for the older service lines where our records are not great. You know, the ones from 100 years ago, they didn't necessarily document the material of the service line that was installed. And so we need to go dig those up and determine what it is. One way that customers can help if they're interested is to take a look in their basement where their service line comes in through the basement wall, which is right at the water meter. And from there, they can visually identify at least the private side of the service line and what material that is. And Sean here is holding a few examples of the most common types here in Acton. We, like I said, copper or plastic are the two primary materials. So obviously this one over here on your right is copper, and the two on your left are plastic. And typically the newer plastic is blue and the older plastic is black. And so if you are curious what your service line material is, you can go down in your basement, identify that, and if you go to our website, there's a link to an app where you can self-report that information to both us and the state, and that will help us make additional progress even faster than when we're going around digging everything up. Or if you want to make it easier, you can always just email me at corey@actonwater.com, and we can do it that way as well. But like I mentioned, there's a private side of the service line and a public side as well. So even if you do that, we may still have to go out and dig up the public side, but fortunately that's off of your property and won't have any impacts to you.
And then maybe a quick follow-up. I know you said that there wasn't a lot of lead pipes or even any, but then there were iron and other, materials. Are those other materials, are there any that are of concern? And then in terms of the lead question, are there any other sources of lead in our water beside pipes that people can be aware of?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, we haven't found a single lead service line in Acton, but there's about 3,000 service lines where we don't necessarily know the material on either the private side or the public side. And if it is galvanized iron on the private side and we don't know the material on the public side, then we can't say for sure that there was never lead on the public side. And so those galvanized ones specifically become of some concern, and we want to prioritize identifying the public side material for those to make sure that it's not lead, because galvanized iron can absorb lead if there was ever any upstream and then release it later. So it's not as big a concern as actual lead, but it's still something that we want to figure out if there was ever any lead upstream. And what was the second part of the question?
Are there any other sources of lead in our water?
Well, so in some of the older homes, sometimes lead solder was used on the copper plumbing inside the home. And so there is some potential for that to leach into the water, within an individual's home. But we here and most water departments perform what we call corrosion control at the treatment plants to make sure that the water is not corrosive and won't leach that lead out of the solder in the copper plumbing.
So do we have that corrosion control here with the Acton Water
Yes,
District?
we do, and it's been in place for decades.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you shouldn't worry about lead in our kitchen?
No, I mean, no, it shouldn't be leaching out of there. No.
All right, so are there any other updates that we haven't talked about that you'd like to give us?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything.
Well, thank you so much and welcome to Acton. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the work that you're doing, to you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And we'll wrap it up with the Acton Water District Manager coming right up. So it's been a fantastic afternoon here at the Acton Water District, getting the updates for you so you can know what's happening behind the scenes. And to wrap it up, I'm just going to hand it over to Matt to give us one word or piece of advice or whatever.
Sure. No, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing some of the happenings here at the Acton Water District. Want to thank my colleagues for joining me to share this message with you. And also just to remind people that we do have, 15 people working for us that are doing various jobs to make sure that the water is safe and reliable. And we also have our elected officials, and oftentimes people don't really think of us as being part of the community. So just want to remind everyone that we're here, and we're here to make your day go by easier.
And then maybe one question I usually like to ask, what is the best way for people, for the community to contact the Acton Water District?
Yeah, so best way to contact us is to send an email or visit our website, www.actonwater.com. Our board meets twice a month. You can come and we have a public comment period. If you have questions, concerns, that's kind of an open opportunity for the public to engage with both staff and our elected officials.
Well, thank you all for the work that you do. And to our viewers, I hope you have learned about updates, and for more, visit the website, and you have the contact information. But for now, thank you for watching Acton in Focus. Till next time.